All right, hey there, friends. We are moving to exercise 35 of the Teacher's Handbook of Sloyd, and that is cutting half-laps. The book actually calls it half-laps and halving, depending on how the half-lap is oriented. I think we typically just call it half-laps. You can see I've got started here. Important thing, though, is that we mark a reference surface on our boards, and as we are marking our depth, we always gauge from the reference surface. Now, the reason for that is that if your marking gauge is a little bit off and you're not exactly in the middle, that's okay, because one may be a little deep, the other side a little bit shallow, but they all equal out. This is not the same as if it's in power tool woodworking, where you have to be dead in the middle. The other thing we want to be careful about is how we mark the waist. You can see that I have the waist that I removed on this side, but for the next piece, the waist will be removed from the other side. But we are going to gauge from the reference surfaces regardless of the waist side. So I marked the gauge previously, and we're just going to leave that the same. We're not going to change that so that we've got exactly matching. Other thing I do need to do is mark where the board is going to cross. All right. So we present our square then, put our knife in the notch, present the square, and take progressively deeper cuts. All right. We also want to mark the edges here. We're going to show actually 3 types of half-laps, and I call them the N, the T, and the cross. I don't know if that's the right name or not, but that's what I'm going with. So now that we've got that marked off, you can actually just, this is be the waist side over here. I'm just darkening this up so it's a little bit easier to see, and I can see my marking gauge was not dead center. And as I said, that's really not going to matter. So we tilt the saw or the board so that I can see both gauge lines at the same time. And this allows me to actually cut along both lines and hopefully have keep me better on track. Cut this side all the way down to the cut line. We're going to rotate it here. Add up some more. All right, so my first cut, which was not on the camera, was actually cleaner than this one. But that's how it goes sometimes. Down to the cross line. All right, we are gonna let's take our chisel. Right here. Let's take our chisel. Put in a little bit more of a knife line here. This is completely optional. But it gives me more of an opportunity to use my new Nerix chisels. All right, come in now here. Cut that off. We can then take our chisel. We're not quite down to the line on that side, so we can pare down here just a little bit. Clean up some of the saw marks. And clean up the shoulder of the cut. And we have a HalfLap there. Now, one of the things that you can do when you're getting your HalfLap ready, put a little glue on here, glue the other side. All right. And put it in a clamp. Clamp that up. So let's go ahead and check square on that. Make sure that we have it set properly, which we do not. So let's loosen that up just a little bit. There we go. Now if we want, we can put this in the vise. Again, this step here is completely unnecessary. And we'll take our well, I shouldn't say it's unnecessary. It really depends on the what you're using this joint for. And if it's like a simple picture frame or something like that, this really isn't going to help you much. But if there's a structural issue that you need to deal with, there's going to be a lot of stress on the joint. All right, hollow that out. Come in with a dowel. That. And now we can use our crosscut saw or flush cut saw and make short order of that. So that is HalfLap number 1, which is the, what did I call this? The end. This is the end HalfLap, and this is probably the most common one that you're going to see. All right, the next HalfLap is what, where you might see Saloman calling it the halving joint, and that is if the boards are sitting like this. So your cross piece is actually smaller. The HalfLap, what he calls, is when the boards are laying flat and you're going more across the long grain there, or the broad side. The broad side is actually what he referred to it. All right, so we are going to, again, mark our reference surface. Okay. All right, so let's mark out one edge here. Okay. Now that we got that marked, we'll take our knife and we'll put in a a knife wall there. We're going to hold the board and make sure it is lined up on that line and make a nick there. Put the marking knife in the nick you just made. Bring the square up to it. Boom, 2, 3. All right, so this side, because this is the reference side on piece 1, this now becomes our waist. The waist is going to be on the bottom then of the other side. So the reference sides will be facing up. In this case, waist facing down, waist facing up in that one. Let's take our marking gauge and mark our depth. Again, knife in the nick, knife in the nick. Bring the square to the knife and cut your depth. Again, knife in the nick, square to the knife, and mark. Knife in the nick, square to the knife. So, since we're now talking about joints, we're making a transition really from talking more about tools, where we were talking about tools. Now we're going to be talking about techniques, particularly joinery techniques. Right? So in this case, I'm still going to go with my dovetail saw, even though it is rip teeth. What this is going to do is it's fine enough and controlled enough that it's going to work. It's going to work fine. So in this situation, I think the knife wall is a little bit more important. Okay. Sorry about probably seeing my elbow there. All right. Get down close to the line. You don't need to be all the way down to the line. In fact, it's a little bit better to be short of the line than above it. All right, so this is where I need some bigger Narex chisels. So you can see I'm still using my Irwins there. We're going to go halfway. Halfway. You can do a mallet if you want, or you can do it by hand, because this is fairly soft grain. So and then we'll come in with our paring strokes to clean it up. Okay. Okay, on this side, which is good, we didn't go all the way down to the line on the back side. We really shouldn't do that because you could blow out that side. So come in, tilt the handle down just a little bit. Okay, so right here, actually did not get that saw cut all the way down, and that's okay. and clean that up. Remember the short stabbing paring strokes to clean things up when you're going across the grain. All right. So now as we come this way, remember waste now over on this side. We're going to strike a mark. Okay. Present the piece to the wood. Make a nick there in the corner. Oh, all right. Knife in the nick. Bring the square to the knife. 1, 2, 3. Now, we have our depth. So let's go again. Gauge from the reference surfaces. You see what I did? I was about to gauge from the waist side. Okay? We have to gauge from the reference surface every time. No exceptions. Gauge from the reference. All right, now we can extend those lines down to our gauge line. Knife in the nick. I'll tell you what, let's do this just a little bit different, see if we can get slightly better results. Knife wall. We'll break out the cross-cut saw for this one. Let's see how that does. Okay. That's down to the gauge line on that side. We're at the gauge line over there. Almost there. All right, get a little extra support there. We go halfway. So, actually like that we didn't go. This grain's being a little bit contrary there. We can actually, yeah. Let's do this here. Just halfway over the handle, pop up. Get down closer to the gauge line. Ooh, look at that. That came out nice and clean. Let's flip it around to the other side. All right. Because that's being a little contrary, we'll come in here with our mallet and just give it a few little love taps to get it down closer. Make sure we're at the line, and we are. All right. And what I'm going to do now is come in with the other chisel, since we know it to be nice and sharp. Since I'm sure you watched the video of me sharpening this brand new chisel, right? All right, let's see how we did. That's a tight fit. That is a tight fit. So if we were to glue this, I'm telling you, this thing would not go anywhere. All right, HalfLap number 2, which is the cross. Now HalfLap number 3 is a combination of the two. Okay, because one end or one piece, you're going to do the HalfLap at the end. The other piece, you're going to do the HalfLap in the middle. Principle, though, is exactly the same. We'll do that the middle piece. We'll make this the end piece, okay? You still choose a reference side. You still choose a waste side. So in this case, in this piece, waste is going to go up. In this piece, waste is going to go down. Okay, up, down. All right, let's cut the HalfLap on this one first. So we're using the same marking gauge. Mark the ends. Okay, let's make this a little darker so we can see. All right. Come in here. Try and make the board square, but it's not absolutely critical, because all you're doing is putting a nick there, and you're doing the square piece with the actual square. See, I'm using the combination square here. To do that, let's do it this way first, so to get our knife wall in there. We do need to mark the edges here, so knife up against the knife wall. Let's come in this way. All right. Another thing you might notice is, because my knife is double beveled, I will actually lean this away from it to get up here. I know some people are huge proponents of a single beveled knife, single bevel marking knife. I don't personally see where that helps me. All right, nice and tight in the vise with the rip saw. So this is where a tenon saw might be better, but I don't have a tenon saw, and as I've told you, I don't know how many times I've told you, use what you have. And what I have is a dovetail saw. The tenon saw would probably cut a little bit faster, but in this particular case, I don't think I'm going to gain that much from it. All right, cut down to the line, then come back. So when you cut it this way, one end cutting this side first and then that side, it helps you see both gauge lines at the same time, helps you go straight, but it does leave a little triangle there in the middle, and that's why you need to come back like that. Finish that out. Pour it over. Now we come in, register the saw firmly against that knife wall. All right, see we got a few saw marks in there. Come in with the chisel, clean it up, make that nice. The smoother it is, the better the glue is going to adhere. So that, clean up the shoulder. You can do this with a router plane as well if you have a router plane. All right. Now, let's cut the cross piece. Remember, reference side up, in this case, waist side up. Waist side was down here. Waist side is going to be up here. Come in with our knife. 1, 2, 3. Line this up. Best we can. Make a nick right there. Okay. Knife in the nick. Square to the knife. 1, 2, 3. Let's do the other edges. Knife in the nick. Let's see. Knife in the nick, square to the knife. I'm just doing that to mark it. I don't need anything really deep there. All right. Flip it around the other way. Knife in the nick. Square to the knife. Knife in the nick. Square to the knife. All right. Marking gauge. Keep the same setting that we always have. Go against the reference surface, not the waist. Mark. All right, make sure you do register this. I have a habit of letting the marking gauge slip. All right, got to be better about that. I got to make sure that I keep the marking gauge firm against the reference surface. All right. I'm just putting pencil marks on here, help make it easier for you to see, not really for me. All right, if we were doing a halving joint where the thin part, we were only doing a smaller one, we could probably get away with doing this vertically. I wouldn't try it like with such a broad one without actually having maybe a hold down. I could get my hold down, and we could do something like that. All right, halfway. Handle down, hit up. Halfway between the top and the gauge line, handle up. You know what? Don't be like me. I did not cut my relief lines. Okay, saw in the wall. I actually started splitting the wood down here. So if I had just made one more tap, this board actually would have been ruined, I think. All right. You notice I did not put a knife wall here. It made it a little bit more difficult to get started. Still did okay. All right, but it was a little bit more difficult. Handle down a little bit. All right, good. We stopped short. We did not go out the other side. That's a good thing. That is a good thing. Come back over here. Not going all the way down to the knife line yet. Take that out, then we can come in. All right, still not, we didn't go all the way through from that side, so let's flip it back around. Now we can get almost. Now we can go all the way down to the knife line. Look. A little tap there. All right, let's take her. Paring strokes. Let's get that cleaned up, smoothed up. All right. I got a little big this time. I got a little big, but still acceptable. Now we're going to have to figure out how to close up those cracks a bit. So let's test it to see what we've got for square. Yep, a little bit off, a little bit off. Dab of glue on this side, dab of glue on this side. Again, depending on what the joint is being used for, you could actually put a peg in here on this side, or in this joint as well. Nice and square. And whew. There you have it, friends. HalfLaps, 3 ways. Cross, end, T. I don't know if those are the right names. If not, I'm sure somebody's going to be nice enough to drop a comment in down below and let me know what it is. HalfLaps, 3 ways. Take care. God bless.